Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. And I hope you're all staying cool with the heat wave that's been sweeping the east coast of the United States or elsewhere in the world where the weather is really warm at the moment. So today I would like to go over the book by Mustafa El-Amin titled Freemasonry, Ancient Egypt and the Islamic Destiny. Now, this book talks about how the ancient civilizations, especially Egypt, how it has influenced many esoteric orders of today like Freemasonry, and how that ultimately leads that perfection to the Islamic faith as well. So a lot of people were, there's a lot of naysayers that were out there about this book, but I really enjoyed it. Maybe there were some things in here that I did not agree upon, but majority of it, I liked it, I recommend it, and I commend Mustafa El-Amin for producing a great book filled with wonderful information. So now I would like to go over, the things that I discovered in this book, to share it and add my own analysis to it, to that spiritual connection between ancient Egypt, Islam, Freemasonry, even the Shriners, and how it's all like relative with each other. So I have like 6 pages worth of notes, and I would like to go over each point that I made from what I discovered in the book. So bear with me. So what's shown in the book with the first discovery that I came across is that the Islamic prayer rug represents the oblong square. Now if you look at the Islamic prayer rug, it is the oblong square, and it has the 2 pillars on it, which represents the 2 pillars of the temple, and you have the perfect ashlar stone of the Kaaba, which one must become in his life, the Ka and the Ba, the aspects of the soul from ancient Egypt, to become the Yak, which is the exalted brother, or Aki when we greet each other in Arabic as brothers. And even inside the Kaaba, you have 2 pillars and an altar there. So it's all relative when he says with the oblong square, because the oblong square is something that takes you to the high heavens, and that's where I believe the Western idea of the flying carpet came from too, where when you got on the carpet would take you above the material and physical realms to the spiritual realms. So, and you have to face the east too when you pray, so everything is about facing eastwards. So Muslims also, when they're done praying, they give salam to the left and to the right, because as the double-headed eagle and as the physical temple yourself, you give salam to both pillars that are there to support you. And those are the pillars of duality, where we said that one angel we have that records your good deeds and one records your bad deeds. And that's part of the being the temple and the 2 pillars to support you, which are the 2 angels who are recording your deeds, and the other aspect of it being the double-headed eagle, knowing that nature of duality exists within you. So the dollar is shaped like a prayer rug. So the dollar, he points out, is also shaped like an oblong square, because America's founding fathers, majority were Freemasons, so there would be symbolism not just in the country's architecture but also in the currency that was developed as well. And even with the Egyptian pyramid that was placed on the back. So he stresses that, a lot of people deny that, okay, everything came from Europe or the stone builders or the ancient Greeks or Romans. And he stresses the fact that history has kind of been whitewashed, including the history of Masonic origins. And he says that if Egypt had nothing to do with it, why are there parallels in American society, from Egypt to here? Where Egypt had an upper class, then they had a lower class, then Egypt was known for their accomplishments in that ancient world at the time, and it was also known for its oppression of different peoples inside of its continent. And the other thing that he points out is that they had a mystery school, and America has mystery schools. So he basically calls this the modern Egypt, and we see even in a lot of Masonic buildings where you'll have the 2 sphinx always, and when you enter into any building, whether outside or inside, House of the Temple, Washington Monument is an obelisk. There's many Egyptian rooms that you'll find. So there is a link, along with the founding fathers putting the pyramid on the back. So there is a link that the author is stressing that people are avoiding trying to make, because they don't want to give any credit to the East, and per se, to anyone in the Asiatic zone, in the Africa Asia zone. They want to keep everything to theirself. So okay, moving on. He says that the Oriental throne of King Solomon, the Eastern chair, is octagonal, like it's eight-sided, and how when we pray, when we get down and prostrate, all eight sides of our body are also on the floor when we prostrate and pray to the Most High. The East is the spiritual state man must return to. The West is material. That's why you must always travel eastwards, because everything is pointing towards the East. The double-headed eagle, duality and bringing balance to one's soul. The Islamic prayer and Holy Quran, Surah 55, verse 17, that the Most High is the Lord of the two Easts and two Wests, because you have the material realm and the material physical realm and the spiritual realm. So you have the two East and the two West, and the double-headed eagle is part of that duality. And in Egypt, he makes the comparison that some pharaohs wore a double-headed serpent crown, where Upper Egypt would mean wisdom and Lower Egypt would mean the materials. So Lower Egypt would be their labor, their lower classes, and Upper Egypt would be where all the elites lived and where a lot of the mystery schools were located. And he points out about Pythagoras and other Greeks that went to Egypt to study knowledge. Now, he points out that Pythagoras is known as somebody that's the master of numbers. So how could he be a master of numbers if he himself went to Egypt and had to wait 20 years before being initiated into the Egyptian rites? So that's what he's saying, is that a lot of the history has been kind of only being given favor to the philosophers or the Stoics of ancient Greece and Rome, but he says that the aspects of Sufism and aspects of ancient Egypt, where a lot of this knowledge did come from, is forgotten and neglected, and most avoid talking about it. So I want to do him the justice by making sure that in my channel I always talk about that others refuse to. So I want to make sure I teach what he's trying to teach in this book as well, to be fair to his message. Okay. Now, Egypt mystery schools. So in Egypt mystery schools, the 357, like in the Masonic system, you have the 357. Here it's pointed out that in your first step in the Egyptian mystery school, it would take you 3 years to complete. Your second step, which would be the second degree, would take you 5 years to complete, and your third and final step would take you 7 years to complete. So the 357 originally comes from there, where you were put through the 3 stages of the mystery school. So it would take you 3 years to get through the first degree, and wait until you get promoted to the next one. Then once you got to the second degree, you had to wait 5 years and study everything. And then when you had gotten to the third third degree, you had to wait 7 years for you to study and implement everything, and then that title would be bestowed upon you. Because even Egypt at that time, they had operatives who were building the temples, and the speculatives who were just taught how to build their own selves from within in a spiritual state of mind. Now, the two systems that he talks about is the Osirian and the Isisian. One is lower, one is higher. And the thing is that he says about Osiris, he's represented by the open eye symbol, which is the all-seeing eye of Almighty God. And what he says is that the African people were buried in the West by bigotry. So what he says is that he compares the plight of the African Americans that were punished, not just in Egypt, but the ones that were brought from Africa to the West, from the East to the West. They were basically persecuted by ruffians from his point of view. So you have England, the United States, and France being the 3 ruffians who persecuted Hiram Abiff and brought him from the East to the West and buried him in the West under the I guess the umbrella of bigotry and oppression. So he tells them that you need to waken yourselves up spiritually and take back your rights and your knowledge and your names before everything was stolen from you. So he's stressing, I sense the love that he has for his people, and I can, see the parallels that are there also. And it's my job to put that out there for him. Again, I stress that I have to do justice for his book. Not everyone will agree with it, but you must keep an open mind, because if you don't keep an open mind as a builder in your journey, then you won't learn. And it's only fair that you don't have to take my word for it either, or the author's word. You can take what I say and then make your own conclusion and research what I'm talking about, and you have to come to your own free will conclusion about things. So moving on, he compares the four cardinal virtues of Freemasonry to the four elements. So fortitude being earth, which is strength, material, courage, and endurance. Water being justice, morality, rights and wrongs. Prudence being fire, reasoning, understanding, and wisdom. And temperance being air, spiritual discipline and self-restraint. And these four elementals were also part of the Egyptian mystery schools and what was taught. Now, the Sphinx is basically the original Baphomet. Now, Baphomet people, they take it in an evil way, but what that represents is man becoming one with his true self, meaning your animalistic self, your lower self, your feminine side, your masculine side, and all those energies that you combine inside within you. And that's what the Sphinx represent. It's a man, it's part animal, and it's basically man unlocking his abilities and becoming one with all of the elementals that are in him. That's when you are truly an initiate, and that's what it's about. And that also was carried on from the ancient Egyptian tradition to the Sufi lodges, where the Knights Templars had studied in with them, and that eventually made it back to Europe, which subsequently led them to being labeled as heretics, because they diverted from Catholicism to more of a Sufi Eastern approach in their thinking. Now, prophets Isa, who's Christ, Moses, Musa, Muhammad, peace be upon them all, including Martin Luther King Jr., all went to the mountaintop. So he's stressing that all of these great prophets and leaders that existed throughout the history, there's always something in their story which they say that they went to the mountaintop. And the mountaintop is the all-seeing eye above the capstone, where it's illuminated and it's bright. That means that you have reached complete initiation and knowledge in your life. Now, he refers to Egypt and America as parallels of each other, one of great progress and achievement and the other of oppression and slavery. Both have secret and fraternal orders, or groups that are there to aid in speculative growth. Those with narrow mind, nationalist ideals do get toppled. Those with universal acceptance for all men are supported by the divine. So what he's saying here is, like, not just in Masonically, but to become a leader in your life, you must not be bigoted in any way. If you promise before the altar of God as a Mason that all men are created equal, but then you go on Facebook and start reposting racist material, or are making racist comments yourself, or are involved in behavior where you look at somebody lesser than you, then he said in your life you will not be fully initiated and you will get toppled in some way. Just like how you have many that join, but they don't understand what it's about, the symbols, the true values of how deep it really goes, and eventually they end up either are just members by name but are not brothers by actual practice and faith. And that's what he's saying, is that you really got to be about it. If you want to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. I can't just call somebody a brother and then go against everything that I promised them for. And majority of the time, your time is spent outside of the lodge room, on the internet, at your job place, at your workplace, with your family and your community. So I can say all the good things that I want, but it's my actions that will demonstrate to somebody, oh, okay, this is what they teach him. He's a good guy. So it's about you being the exemplar, because if I'm representing myself as a Muslim in American society or as a Mason, they're going to look at me and watch my actions. Oh, okay, this is how these people act. So it's your job to make a good impression and circumscribe your desires and live within due bounds. And It's unfortunate that, even on the internet and in real life, many are acting like children. They're not, fulfilling that responsibility of being pure and being good and being healthy. So you gotta get to that level. What the author is stressing, and what I add to that. So the people must take charge of their own destiny. God God will only help you until you help yourself. So for the condition of any peoples, places, countries, anybody, to change, you got to help yourself, because the divine is basically within you. And the Holy Quran, Surah 50, tells you that Almighty God is closer to you than your jugular vein. The Book of Luke in the Holy Bible tells you the same. Kingdom of heaven is within. The Book of the Dead, which existed before any of that, tells you that the kingdom of heaven is within. And even Ibn Arabi, the Sufi master, tells you that Allah sent himself to himself. So we're basically, an extension of that thought form, or that dream in a wisp that the Most High Creator is having. And we're all an extension of that each other. That's why we say that Allah is the only reality, because God is the only reality. And to God you belong, and to Him you shall return. Everything else you leave behind here. This physical shell that you're occupying, and the energy that's in here, it will get transformed into something else. You never really truly die. You're an immortal soul. And it tells you that, for any society to change, you must harbor yourself internally with the divine. And once your internal frequency gets strong enough, then it will manifest outside into the external world. And if enough people do that, then you can bring real change in life. And that's what he's teaching us here. Now, he also talks about Ezekiel's wheels, wheels within wheels. Now, this is taught by a lot of the other groups as well, about the importance of Ezekiel's wheels, that man is evolving from within. Your destiny is in your hands. Now, he talks about the story of Joseph, who in Islam we say Yusuf alayhi salam, that forgiveness and sharing knowledge with all, how his own brothers had sold him into slavery, but forgiveness was always the answer that he had come across. And you always must be tolerant and forgiving, because revenge will never bring you happiness either. And he relates that to African leaders in Africa who had sold their own brothers into slavery when they were brought over to Europe and the West and America and other places. So he compares that to the story of Joseph, where his own brothers sold him into slavery. But he says that the modern African American must be forgiving and tolerant, and must focus on building a better future for themselves by learning all of this knowledge, and by being forgiving, and by knowing that, okay, I know who I am, what I stand for, and what I need to do, and I shall make a better future for myself, and let everything just be in the past, and take the mantle of forgiveness. Now, he talks about the story of Osiris, and he says that that's the original story of Hiram Abiff. And he says, why? Because of what happened with his brother Set. And Set always used to come and try to antagonize him, and he compared them to the ruffians. How the ruffians, they trapped him in the coffin, and then Isis, his sister wife, found him, and then Set was upset that he got rescued, and then he cut him up, and then Isis rescued him again. So it's that balance of divine feminine and masculine that comes in again, which also tells us, even in Islam, that your faith is not complete until you get married. So he compares the original story of Osiris to the one of Hiram Abiff, and he also teaches us about the divine masculine feminine aspects. All right, so the Holy Quran, Surah 4, verse 114, says that secrecy is allowed only if it serves justice, charity, or peace between mankind. So a lot of people in religious groups say that, okay, you cannot serve a religious order and serve Masonry at the same time, but the goal of Masonry is the upliftment of mankind. It's not about serving two masters. And a lot of people get confused at you calling someone worshipful. Calling someone worshipful is one who's full of worship, because he's helping you get to God and taking you to the east, just like how in a mosque you would call a sheikh, an imam. You're giving them their respective title because they worked for it. They're the master of the work. Right? You could call a priest a rabbi. You give them their respective title because they learned the work and they earned it. So same thing with worshipful. It's not about you giving them more respect than God. It's about giving, due honors and due salutations to those who have took the mantle of doing the work of God and uplifting mankind. So secrecy is allowed only if it serves justice, charity, or peace between mankind. So there you have that. Because in Islam, we believe that Islam was revealed in stages. So the first degree of Islam was the Torah with Judaism. Second degree was Christianity with the Holy Bible and the Gospels. And the third degree of Islam is the Holy Quran and the message of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So we believe that the religion was perfected over time. And that's what, basically from my point of view, that's what the final version of my faith teaches me, is that I can be a Mason and a Muslim at the same time, as long as I serve the interest of mankind and I'm not plotting against mankind or my fellow man in any way. So another point that he reflects is that secrecy reflects a weakness and a fear on the part of man to trust the powers and the precious jewels of scripture, creation, and God with the masses of people. Now, this book was published in 1988 when there was no internet or there was no lectures, Masonic lectures that we see going on today. So this is something that has, I believe, evolved over time, where he says that, we shouldn't be hoarding all that knowledge to ourselves. We should be sharing that with others to help others in their spiritual quest as well, and help them get a better understanding of who you are and what your contributions to humanity are. Now, even with my YouTube channel, I'm supporting this brother in what he's saying, that you got to be able to share your knowledge with people. So I agree with him. If you have something to share, don't keep it a secret. And as long as it's within, the bounds of, your promises and your obligations, then, share that with others, what can benefit them. Now, moving on to his next point of Surah Bani Israel in the Holy Quran, verse 100, where he says that call upon Allah or call upon Rahman, which is the feminine, masculine, omnipresent being. Now, Allah has 99 attributes. It the Creator, known by Allah, has 99 different attributes which describe its being. So in the Holy Quran, Allah says you can either call upon me as Allah or as Rahman, and that's the only one of the 99 attributes that he highlights out of all of it, because Rahman is a feminine name, and feminine. So if you look at Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, which is in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. You have Rahman, which is the feminine, and Rahim, which is the masculine. And you have a lot of occult groups out there that try to teach you to embody the masculine, feminine at the same time, whether it's in your physical appearance or internal, how you feel. So it's telling you to basically align those feelings within you, where you must not ignore your feminine side or your masculine side. You must blend those together. And how even in our faith, it teaches us that a man's faith is not complete until he has a wife, or a wife's faith is not complete until she has a husband, because you're part of that, omnipresent being. There's other groups out there that tell you that your original source, you're a genderless, sexless being, and that's what you must return to. So that's what he points that out too in this book. Now, he talks about Islam, how it brought the Arabs from darkness to light when they were just warring caravans and tribes, and how, once they were, brought out of that darkness, that's when their golden age started, with medicine, algebra, astronomy, with the stars being named after them in Arabic numerals. The light spread to Africa, Europe, Asia, and all over the world through the Moors, where the Moors were in Europe and in Spain, and they brought the Europeans out of darkness when Europe was in the Dark Ages after the Crusades. and they were able to share that knowledge from there to there. And how even if you look at the graduation that happens in the West, because a lot of the students from Europe would go to these Islamic university and study, and once they graduated, they would wear the loose clothing, or the thobe, which if you look at the graduations today, that's what they're wearing, are the loose Islamic clothing, which symbolizes that they came from the West to the East to seek light. And if you search what that means today, you won't get the correct version of it, because like he says in his book, that history has been kind of manipulated to only favor certain groups and make others seem like they didn't discover anything. And he also points out that that knowledge of astronomy, self, liberal arts was encouraged by Islam. Algebra, the name of the stars, medicine, Islam is for all mankind. So he said it's not just about being Islamic doesn't mean that you're an Arab nationalist. It's for everyone. And we can even see that if you look at the Kingdom of Hawaii's logo before the U.S. took it over. They have two melanated brothers, who look Moorish, wearing the red fezzes, holding the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And Hawaii is the only state in America that has an Islam Day every September. So the Moors were there too in the Kingdom of Hawaii before the U.S., like 265 years before the U.S. even came into existence. You can look up the banners. It's all there, including the I think it's the old logo of the U.S. Army, where they have the fez on a stick, or a red, they call it the Figerian cap too. The fez, the red fez on the stick. So he says that the 5 pillars of Islam give you support and direction, which is charity, pilgrimage, fasting, praying, believing in the oneness of God, all of those things. So he's basically saying that all that was in the ancient Egyptian mystery schools. Eventually, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he came and he perfected all of that knowledge with the first degree Judaism, second degree Christianity, and fixed all of the errors from there. And Islam was, what it ultimately became, and how even the Knights Templars, when they were in Jerusalem studying under the Al-Aqsa Temple, which is King Solomon's temple, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they were learning occult knowledge from the Sufi Islamic lodges there. And the number 787, if you write that out in Arabic, that's the square and the compass. So in their times there, they had found their own esoteric knowledge strengthened, and they took that back to Europe, and that's when they were labeled as heretics, because then you had the knowledge that they had from the Sufis, the 787, square and compass, then the whole thing with Baphomet, which is just about your feminine, masculine, and animalistic sides of the human nature infused into one to become better and know better and think better. So he says that even the knowledge that you have is for all. No racism, recognition issues between races, genders, and religions, oath taking, etc. So he's saying if you're really a society which is based on Masonry, his focus is on America too, then you shouldn't have any issues about racism, about this or that, or us or them, because then you're still living in darkness. You haven't been brought out to the full light yet that you proclaim that you have. So next we move on to the Shriners. He talks about the Shriners, and I myself have been through the shrine system here in America, but I'm no longer a part of it. I'm just regular lodge and with chapter and Scottish Rite. I was with the Shriners and I went through all of it, but I will go into what he's saying, and then I'll add my side to it. So the Shriners learn about Islam and its teachings. One must be a Knights Templar or 32nd degree to wear the fez, but that depends on jurisdiction, because some jurisdictions allow you to join it even if you are a Master Mason. And I believe in Canada you must pick either the Scottish or York rites in order to do that, so it depends on the area. But that's how it originally was set up, like for everything, for all of the areas. The mystic shrine is the Kaaba, which is the perfect ashlar stone with the pillars and altars inside, because in your journey, even as a Muslim, you must become the Kaaba, the Ka and the Ba, so you could become the Ak, the three stages of the soul, and the three stages of the Kaaba with the three pillars inside of it too, just like you have the three pillars on the Masonic tracing board as well. You must be able to become one and call all your human beings as brothers and sisters, where even when Malcolm X, when he went to Mecca, his entire mindset changed from being a black nationalist to becoming more accepting of other people. And he saw the universality of, showing love to your fellow man. And when you're at the Kaaba, you wear the white cloth, which is the ihram, and if you spell that out phonetically, it's called Hiram. And you must become Hiram as at an exalted state and become the Kaaba yourself. And over there, it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, a soldier, a janitor, businessman, house owner, everyone meets there on the level. And it's equivalent to seeing your brother with the white lambskin apron of a master mason and its innocence, and you greet them on the level. So that's what he's saying, that had existed. These concepts had already existed even way before Masonry officially was established. Now, he says that Knights Templars are allowed to join Shriners because they studied with the Islamic groups, as I pointed out earlier, and they took the knowledge back to Europe, which, 787, if you see here, is the square and the compass. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Now, in the Shriners, he says that they take on Islamic names for their temples, attributes, and very powerful people such as Buzz Aldrin, J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the FBI, presidents, and different people of positions of powers have taken their oath on the Holy Quran, and they know what Islam is, they know what Allah is, they know who Prophet Muhammad is. And the reason why the Quran and the Bible are there at the same time is because in the Bible, John wept much because no one was found to open and read the book. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, during his journey to heaven, he met Jesus and John the Baptist, and he was not weeping. So that means when those two books are there, with the Quran and the Bible, that means that the promise was fulfilled, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, owed to John the Baptist. And you have Mecca, the holy city of Mecca in the east, which is in the book of Psalms. Chapter 84, verse 6 is also known as Bakka. You must go to the valley of Bakka, because that was the original place of worship. And salam alaikum, peace be upon you, the greeting used by the Shriners. And nemesis, which is retribution for those who don't live up to their obligations. Zemzem, the holy water. Hagar, helped by Allah, the two hills, the two pillars, Safa and Marwa. The Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 58, 159. Allah will curse those who hide the symbols. Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 15. Take not for friends and protectors those who take your religion for a mockery or sport. Now I'm going to touch on this one. May Allah, the God of... Now, what he's saying is that, the thing he's saying is that there's... Shriners have existed in America for a long time, right? So a lot of the people in power, presidents, leaders, all these officials know what Islam is and what it stood for. So he's saying all the years that Islam was discriminated against, and all the news media spreading all the lies about Islam, that these people are evil, this is what they do, this is who they are, and none of these people spoke out against it that had taken their oath on the Holy Quran. And a part of their oath is them asking Allah to help them, and how they greet each other with the attribute of Assalamu alaikum, which is peace be upon you. So he's saying that why were these people quiet? And he stresses that from the Holy Quran of from chapter 2 verse 15, that they take Islam as a mockery and a sport. So for them, it's just about, okay, looking nice for the hospitals, or doing the parades, but you're not following the Islamic laws, such as no partying or alcohol, and other things, such as you not defending Islam when Islam was being degraded left and right by the media and other people and institutions, where you yourself were a part of that agenda to demonize Islam, and you were in positions of power. So he's saying that that's you're being a hypocrite, where behind the doors you're greeting each other as Muslims in Muslim attire and wearing the Islamic fez and saying Assalamu alaikum to each other, but then you go right outside and bash Islam, whether online or in person, or if you're in a position of power, you are furthering the agenda of hate against Islam. So, Mustafa El-Amin has a point, and the reason why I no longer am a Shriner as well, because I am an original Shriner by faith. I don't need to pay dues or pretend to be one, or pretend to play a game of being one. I'm already an original Muslim son and Shriner, which comes from Fez, Morocco, and the traditions of ancient Egypt and Arabia and all of those places where Islam originated from. So that's what he's saying, is that take not for friends and protectors those who take your religion for a mockery or a sport. But you remember the earlier verse that he pointed out, that secrecy is allowed only if it serves justice, charity, or peace between mankind. So he doesn't have any problem with regular Masonry. He has a problem with the Shriners, because the Shriners are the ones that have taken Islam as a joke and they're not even teaching their own members, like, the original story between the Sufism and the Knights Templar and how it all started, and the original origin stories from Morocco with the Sufis, how even Christian Rosencreutz from the Rosicrucians, was there studying under the Sufis, and he took that knowledge back to Europe himself. And I would recommend you check out the lecture that I did for the Rosicrucians in Australia in my Islamic Freemasonry playlist on YouTube to get a better understanding of that. So Mustafa El-Amin is saying that we know that there's good and evil in all races and religions, and it's in all of it. You have good people and bad people. And I read the Bible, and let's say a priest does something against a child. That was the priest. That's not what the Bible teaches, and it doesn't say that in the Bible to hurt a child. So what he's saying is that for all these people, especially the ones in positions of power that have been Shriners and still are, for them to see all the demonization that took place against Islam in these last 20 years in America, and even before that, where you had the Desert Storm and all the stuff that was going on even way back then in those eras, that why didn't any of these people come out and defend the Islamic community? So that's what he's saying, that for them it's a joke and a game, and if you're a Muslim, you don't need to pretend to pay to be one. You just practice and keep being who you are, because he's saying that they're doing that same injustice to their own members by not teaching them the real knowledge. Is actually very watered down what's presented to them, and it's all under the guise of just focusing on the hospitals, which is charity, zakat, a basic part of Islam. So he's saying that you must just continue to be who you are, and you're more of a Shriner than them. So all right, so moving on. The noble travels the burning sands from the west to the east to worship at the shrine. Now we see that in John Wick 3, where John Wick is he is the Mason, and how even the elder of Morocco, Hassan Saba, the old man of the mountain, refers to him as my son. Why have you gotten so lost from me? And my son is Mason. My son, Mason, my son. So Hassan Saba, the old man of the mountain, is at the east, where the true knowledge and light is, and there's no one in the world that can help John Wick escape the assassins except the elders from the east. So he travels from the west to the east to seek redemption from the elder, and how the elder refers to himself as my son, because his son, the Mason, had wandered away from the east and was lost in the west in the darkness. And that's why he refers this dialogue that, my son, why have you been so lost from me? You must watch that. There's a lot of Masonic symbolism in that movie. This also refers to the relationship between Madame Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy, and Jamal El-Afghani, who Jamal El-Afghani, she referred to him as Serapis Bey, and one of the elders of the Brotherhood of Luxor, who were teaching their initiates the beauty of immortality of the soul and other concepts that had existed. And Madame Blavatsky herself was taught by an Eastern spiritual master, and she took that knowledge from the East to the West. Same with Jamal El-Afghani. He came to America and he taught the parents of Noble Drew Ali in the winter of 1882 or 83 in Chicago. So because he was planting the seeds, knowing that I'm going to teach his parents, they're going to pass that knowledge on to him. He's going to end up establishing the first Islamic presence in America in 1916, I believe. And that's going to lead to then W.D. Fard Muhammad, who also came from the East to the West to bring the knowledge. And that led to Five Percenters, Nation of Islam, and so on and so on. So you had these leaders from the East that were planting these seeds for all of these movements to come into fruition in the West, including Freemasonry. Now, Islam Day in Hawaii, and you have, which I said, if you look at their banners before the existence of the U.S., you see the two Moors you have on the left and the right, and they're holding the banner, and they're celebrating Islam Day, and they're the only state that do that. Now, Prophet Muhammad is also depicted in the U.S. Supreme Court in the bust. And I believe he's depicted right outside of it because he's one of the greatest lawgivers that America acknowledges, with Thomas Jefferson even studying the Quran and how everything based, the American Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all those things were based on treaties and knowledge that they had learned not just from Islam but from other faiths, because America and Freemasonry are both from the secular mindset where it's universal, everyone is accepted, and that's how Islam is too. So there is a foundation here that the history books are not teaching you, with Morocco, even the first Islamic country, recognizing the U.S. and George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco. So there's a lot of hidden history between Islam and the establishment of America that the school history books are not teaching you, or nor do they want to acknowledge. And that's what he's stressing in this book. So the Ka and the Ba, which is the soul, the Kaaba, and you must become the Ak, the three stages of the soul, a brother and a stage of completion. The hot sands teach you to circumscribe your desires and live within due bounds when you're crossing the burning sands. And they teach you in the Shriners to cross the burning sands. And that's basically Ramadan, which is a part of this test. Hunger, thirst, anger, etc. Where even in the spiritual turmoil that's going on in America, a lot of people, including Masons, are finding hard to circumscribe their desires. And they're falling into traps of disunity and fear and chaos, knowing that anything that causes those things is ungodly, and we must be the better examples of our community. And I commend those Grand Lodges in America who are working with their Prince Hall brethren, putting all the racial and recognition issues aside and coming together as one. And we need more of that. And those states that are doing that, they will see progress in a state of their members, and in a state of their communities, because it all starts with you, community by community. Because at the end, even if any disaster breaks out, what does the federal government say? Oh, it all goes down to the community level. So you must strengthen your communities, and if enough communities do that, then you have an umbrella of peace, justice, love, and unity that will spread throughout the land. And we need more of that. And we cannot keep falling into traps of fear, disunity, and chaos. We're all brothers and sisters, no matter who you are, where you come from, and what you worship. It's all about becoming universal. How he teaches us that in Islam, we believe in all of the faiths in the books. First degree is the Torah, second degree is Christianity, third degree is the Quran. So for us, it's all one and the same, and that's how we must treat each other. And that's how he says that what the founding fathers learned as Masons, and how the Islamic destiny between ancient Egypt and Islam, and how eventually that it was all interconnected with Freemasonry. This is what the society that was built, America was built upon. was freedom, justice, and love for all mankind. Yeah, it didn't happen right away, where he stresses that, that African Americans were persecuted and oppressed in this country, and to this day some of them still are. So he's saying that this is a work in progress that must continue, and he leaves that upon us by continuing to make those right decisions. Now, the goal is to travel east and seek knowledge, the shrine of Islam. To ride the camel is to maintain its strength, patience, and agility. From your travels across the desert to Mecca, everyone meets on the level in Mecca. And he quotes Morals and Dogma from page 148, saying that Albert Pike says that the true symbols are lost. Majority of today's Masons are speculative, and they put their faith in Almighty God. So he's saying that even the majority of today's Masons, how they don't fully understand the symbols and they're lost, and majority of them, they end up leaving, or they end up, they usually go idle in their membership or how much they're participating, because they don't know, that the lodge room is the oblong square, the Islamic prayer rung is oblong square, the dollar is an oblong square. So what is the oblong square? So the oblong square is raising yourself from those material and physical realms to the spiritual realms. How when you pray on the carpet or the prayer rug, and how the West identified that as the flying carpet because you're ascending higher and higher. But see, those things are not pointed out in regular Masonic education seminars, and it's usually repetitive stuff about Stoics from Greece or Roman. So he's saying that they got to be taught the full knowledge. They can't just be taught about the West. They got to learn about the East too, because that's where you're told you have to travel east. It doesn't tell you to travel west and seek light. You have to go to the east. And even Pythagoras and all of those great Greek philosophers and leaders, they were initiated into the Egyptian mystery schools. They were not masters of numbers and all those things right away. So, I don't want nobody to get mad at my video. I'm just saying we must approach these things with an open mind. So I thank you, all those that support me and understand where I'm coming from. I'm not preaching any kind of disunity. I'm just stressing that we must be open to other ideas that have been neglected in our quest for knowledge and uniting the East and the West as a double-headed eagle. Now, he calls the African Americans the original widow's son. Brothers whipping each other, how they were taught, the black on black crime, black on black crime comes from when they were brought from the ships and they had the other slave whip the other slave to basically attack their heart and desensitize them as much as possible towards each other. And that he says that has developed to this day in the violence that happens in the communities. How they took away their fathers, so they were the widow's son because the fathers were put into the prison system and there was no father to raise them, and the state became their fathers. So he refers to them as those that were targeted by ruffians. They were widow's sons because the system made them fatherless, no leadership, and how Islam is the destiny for them. Islam is the destiny of the African American man, because the Moors and all of the leaders of existed that were of African American background or original African background. Islam was the catapult that was their golden age, and he tells them to go back to Islam from his point of view for them to fully have their freedom in the life that they're trying to seek. Now, I apologize, I got cut off for a second there. So yeah, where I was going is that he says the traditions, it comes from the Pyramid Mystery School to the Kaaba, because the pyramids, the Egyptian mystery school was about complete secrecy, and the Kaaba, when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he describes him as the tiler who completes the capstone of the Masonic pyramid, because Prophet Muhammad himself was a widow's son, and he had his companions and brothers that were there, and the Sahabas that aided him in his quest to bring the Arabs and the other communities out of darkness, out of light, from darkness to light. And even in the Islamic crescent and the symbol on the fez that the Shriners wear, so you have that connection between ancient Egypt and the Islamic destiny, as the book points out, and Freemasonry, about everything becoming a universal brotherhood. So all of those things are portrayed on the fez anyway, and it shows that the values that even the founding fathers had professed. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in his Medina charter, or his charter to the monks, at the different monasteries there, where the Christians would have the right to be who they are, their places of worship, and no one would bother them, and no one would do anything without their permission. So the ideas of secularism and having a secular state, or secular ideals where everyone was respected no matter what their race or religion was, the author says that all of that comes from the combination of ancient Egypt and Islam, which then, even when the Templars were there, they took that back to Europe, and eventually that developed into what we know as Freemasonry today. Now, the square in a circle, the Kaaba is the square inside the circle, which is the material, which tells you that the material consciousness should be protected by a God consciousness. So you must infuse those two together. Man builds his house on the square. Okay. Freemasonry is a succession. You have the life of Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, whom we refer to as Isa, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and then them being together in the last days. So we believe in Islamic eschatology is that in the last days that the son of Mary, Isa, peace be upon him, will return, and representation of the Prophet Muhammad, which would be the Mahdi, and together they would be in the last days together, just like how in the Shriners' altar, the Bible and the Quran are there together. The promise of the Prophet to John the Baptist as he was weeping because no one had opened the book, and them being together in the last days. So everything is kind of relative. Now, a lot of people have this belief that American society was built on Judeo-Christian ideals, but the author says that, because it's a secular society, it doesn't tell you that America is a Christian country in any of its details, nor does it tell you that it's a Christian organization in Freemasonry, because those ideals, even their dealings with the Sultan of Morocco, the Moors already being in Hawaii, them getting recognition from an Islamic kingdom. So there were a lot of things that we were not taught about how things really happened and the way they worked, even with Thomas Jefferson and his Quran, and the aspects of them being Freemasons, which then ultimately we tied into ancient Egypt and the Sufi lodges, which the Knights Templar had studied in. So it's all a big circle that's connected. That's what the author is stressing in his book, that American society was inspired by Islamic principles and the Islamic ideas of secularism. And many powerful leaders have taken their oath on the Holy Quran as Shriners, whether they were Christians or reverends or whatever they were portraying themselves in society to be. They swore an oath on that Quran as Shriners to protect what Islam was in society and in their lives. Islam is openness. Most Masons truly don't understand the symbols of what they're being taught or what it's about. Islam is universal and not Arab nationalism, where many get that confused, that if Arabs are not giving rights to their women, that's not what Islam is. If they're abusing each other because of tribes or being racist to other Arabs, that you might have a Lebanese Arab that's in Saudi Arabia, and they might be racist to him because of that. I heard those things, and that's not Islam. That's their tribal nationalism, and that doesn't represent any of that. Anyone can be a Muslim, whether you're white, black, Christian, Jewish. The meaning of a Muslim is one who submits himself to the will of God. So if you're any of those things and you believe in God and you submit yourself to God, even as a Mason, then by definition you're a Muslim, a believer. There's no other way around it. So it brings dignity to man. It does not take away anything that is good for the human being's progress, because it makes good men better. The Egyptologist should study and read the Quran, the same creator that revealed the knowledge to the Egyptians, to Christ, Moses, Muhammad, peace be upon them all, etc. Nationalism, extremism of any kind is evil. and the Most High Creator made us into tribes so we can, learn and know one another. Those who have knowledge owe it to their fellow man. Morocco, Egypt symbols, Islamic sword, it's all on the fez of the Shriner. So, everything that I said, I hope you understood with an open mind. I'm not here, to talk bad about anybody's race, religion, or what they believe in. I just wanted to be fair to this author, because this book was published in 1988, and it's often neglected by the naysayers and those who didn't take the time to study it openly. And that's my job as a Mason, as a bridge builder, that if someone has a message, it's like he said, share it with the people, share it with the world, and see what we can learn from each other and how we can become better in our societies, and how we can just be there to love one another, and how even myself as a former Shriner, I'm still a Mason, and I'm involved in a chapter in Scottish Rite along with regular Masonry. How he points out that they're going against what they stand for if they're taking an oath on the Quran, and if they see Islam being degraded or demonized in society, they don't say nothing about it. So he does have a point there where he says that we must be able to speak out against injustice, with the passing of the late illustrious John Lewis, 33rd degree, who taught us that too. When you see injustice anywhere, you must do something about it and speak out against it. So if we see bigotry or nationalism or racism or any kind of ism which divides men from each other, and the progress of the human soul of everyone becoming united, no matter who you are or what you believe in, then we must speak out against it. Whether it's in the fraternity or in the world or in society, wherever your life's roles places you, because we're all actors on a stage. We all have roles to play. Some are husbands, some are fathers, some are CEOs. Yeah, everyone has a role that they play in their life, on what they stand for and what their job is, and what they were sent here to do, whether it's spiritual or worldly. So we must be, we're here to love one another. Choose love and not fear. That's what I always stress. And you don't have to agree with this author's book, but I hope you took the time to watch my video with an open mind to see what he's saying, that history has been kind of whitewashed, and we must be given the respect and knowledge to the Eastern ancestors, such as ancient Egypt and Islam and other Eastern cultures that have existed, so we can learn from them. And I have been doing that in my videos, where you see I'm relating Freemasonry to Buddhism or Zoroastrianism and all these other faiths that are there, because I want everyone else to feel a personal connection to them. Because it's like you said, everything, only the European side of philosophy or Stoicism or other things were given credit for in terms of Masonry, but anything else where Masonic principles had already existed is not given credit by the West. So I can understand what he's saying, and that's the purpose of my channel too, to talk about things that others refuse to talk about. And I would encourage everyone to please look at my playlist. I have two playlists, one about Islam and Freemasonry, and second about just Masonic education. So please go through both of those lists so you understand where I'm coming from with my message and what I mean to teach by reflecting on this author's book, and also the comparison and contrast that I make between the different faiths and religions that are there, to show that at the end we're all one, we're not separate from each other. So I thank you all for supporting, and I hope you were able to take something from Mustafa El-Amin's book and support his work, and understand that he was neglected, and I'm honored that it was my job to make sure that I kept his message alive. And this book, I believe if you go on Amazon, they only have like a limited number of copies available. So try to get your hands on this book while it's still there, and preserve the legacy of this great author and what he wanted to teach to the readers. And it's not about those who would say that it's not about neglecting the white man in any way. He doesn't say that in here. He's saying that we must all become one, and make the effort to learn about neglected knowledge that was there to separate us from each other, or only give credit to a few and not give credit to all. So, just think about what he's saying. And, my messages are, my views are my own. They don't represent any Grand Lodge statements or opinions. Same with, this brother. He's not a Mason, but, in his research, what he pointed out, it's all relative. And, myself as a Mason, I can confirm it. So I hope you were able to get something out of my video, and I, wish well for you and yours for the rest of the summer. Please stay cool, safe, and healthy. Thank you again for your love and support always.